Good afternoon on what is a mild, bright and sunny day. It is Monday the 18th of March and I'm in the reading up with a nice hot cup of tea and a box to continue unboxing. And what I've got in here is a copy of Imp of the Perverse. So I'm going to leap straight into it because essentially there's no blurb, there's nothing for me to read out on the back. And I'll hopefully determine what it's all about. And it says, a psychological horror game of monster hunting in Jacksonian Gothic America. So that's automatically got my interest, especially essentially in the sense that not just the whole monster hunting thing, but it's particularly in a period I don't know very much about. With the Jacksonian period, which presumably is during the period when Andrew Jackson was a president, which is the 1820s, as I recall. So welcome to Imp of the Perverse. This game invites you and your friends to enter a Jacksonian Gothic America, where dark passions pierce the all-too-thin shroud over the land of the dead, rendering holes through which monsters arise, seeking satisfaction of their perverse desires. So what you've kind of got is almost, I would imagine, essentially a Gothic Regency, a Regency Gothic kind of style campaign, but set not in the United Kingdom at various spas, such as Bath or or Brighton Pavilion, then in America. So here we've got discussion of what the game is about, a dark reflection of the period, discussion of the core central concepts, such as a trembling framework, so nothing is certain. You've got arc of play, how the game is played, vocabulary, so including the roles, notes on a few couple of notes on Gothic Jacksonian America, monsters in play, the protagonists, up front saying what the what these different roles are, how to get started, continue play, and there are footnotes throughout here. So, for example, here it's looking essentially so essentially at the end of each chapter, the protagonists go through the ontogenesis to find out whether they move closer or further away from their imp. So essentially, the Imp of the Perverse is not just dealing with the monsters that come out of the out of the walls, as it were, through the broken shroud, but can be are internal as well, and move closer to their imp, restore original attributes and so on, declare new facts about the shroud and so on. So then we move on to how to use the book, how to make monsters, the nature of the shroud and the web, and laying it out in basically play diagram, play mat, how to escalate the story, and we've got notes on mind control and related horrors and escalation on play before we move on to a fully worked out example. So that's Eleanor Bradway King and her perversity, and what that connects to on the playmat there. So that's almost ready to play. You've got expanded details there on there. Of course, you're not going to present something quite as professional as this, but I mean that's basically so you can actually read it from the page. And then we've got making monsters from protagonists as an idea before we move on to making protagonists. So how to compose one. So let's take a step-by-step process. basically choosing the careers, and then making a survey. So whether it's games, it's discussing things like for games set in the east or south, games set in the west. It doesn't say games set in the north, not necessarily, but it does address the subject of slavery in the protagonists. And so it's got guidance in there on how to handle that, because obviously slavery was rife during the period in the Americas, unfortunately. How to handle gender and presentation, how to fill out the survey at the end. Essentially the survey is your character sheet, handling spouses and children in the setting with a box section for that. So you're talking about different qualities, relationships, standing, resources and reason. All those are elements built of your protagonist, all the way up to empathy and edges, before we move on to what is your character's perversity. It's the core of your protagonist, the reason they are part of the story. So they make, this can be your greatest strength. So we've got examples of that there. And then essentially the workshop, the bit where everyone gets together and discusses this, and how they want to handle perversity and its strength, in the context, of course, of safety tips, and finishing the monster and adding it to the web. So there we go, and here we've got an example of that being done. And then all the setup, how to play the game. So you're going through the different processes of the game, when to make a roll, how to use your edge, or use an edge, help and hinder each other. And we've got sort of a quick guide to exertion rolls with a flow chart. Safety and context in play. So this is more expanding upon the early section. So we're talking about sort of like the difficult elements you might bring in during protagonist creation. Here it's talking about addressing the issues that might come up in play. Because this is a horror game, it is set at a socially difficult time. Describing the imp. And then we've got the final section dealing with the Genesis, where make checks and improve and change your character, growth and change. Ideas are basically running the game with one or two protagonists, and then we have examples of play, because in some ways a storytelling game like this is unlike a traditional role-playing game. It's not straightforward. You know what you're doing. You're rolling dice, making skill rolls, going forward, and so on. Games like Imp of the Perverse, as a storytelling game, are call for a much more demanding input from the part of the players. So always it's great to have examples of play like that to show you how the game works, because they kind of make you think outside what you normally expect of a role-playing game. Now, the thing is, some players have already come in via a game like Imp of the Perverse, or another storytelling game, not necessarily this one, so they're more used to it than other players. I can certainly remember encountering Fiasco for the first time and being a little bit confounded of how I do this. How do I create a scene? So I had to adjust to that play style, and I still find it slightly difficult these days, but I'm a better gamer for it, because I'm also thinking about what's great drama for my character as well in other games. So a good example of play is always useful for that regard. So here we have the editor's rules. This is the guidance from basically the game master, how to use the rules in play. So looking at the point of view of running a game, so you can actually guide us on there and changing editors from dealing from one monster to the next. Say, I mean, for example, advice there: cut rapidly, so keep the story moving. Cut from one scene to the next. Fill dramatic roles. Narrate in visceral detail, because that's what's the player's gonna latch onto. And then we've got themes of the macabre. So the detective story, the lost story. So you are here beginning to think, doing Jacksonian America, but you are beginning to think about the beginnings of the Gothic fiction in America, as it were, especially with the writings of Edgar Allan Poe. So therefore, we have the detective story, which Poe would inaugurate more or less. So we also other types of story we have here, like survival story. Then we move on to the horror revealed at the heart of the Perverse, and then we have a guide to Jacksonian Gothic America. Why now? Expanding upon the setting, introducing it to a wider audience, because it's not a familiar period. Where here in the UK we would think about 1820s as essentially it's post-Regency, but it's we can do that setting because we kind of know it from all the sort of like the Jane Austen and similar adaptations and similar adaptations. Whereas we're not familiar necessarily with this period. So we've got options around setting the game after 1845, so moving it more into the middle of the 19th century. We've got discussion of changes in America, and in some ways I'm actually more looking forward to reading about the history section than I am the game itself. So yeah, that's going to be fascinating as well. So it's exploring the sort of like the America during this period. Then we move on to looking at the city, what it's like there, politics and issues. Travel and communication elements, all sort of like to take into consideration, but not necessarily be important during play. Discussion of religion and faith, which can be, because that can be very personal. What might be gained from travelling entertainments, possible careers in travel and entertainments that might inform a character, some of the character concepts for the period. Careers of affairs, like a bishop or politician, careers of arms, veteran of Indian wars, army engineer, careers of exploration, missionary scout, government property surveyor, careers of leisure, patron of the arts, political backer, postmaster, so on, careers of letters, historian, poet, lecturer, careers of opportunity, farmsteader, far-flung correspondent, careers of service, trailblazer, and so on, careers of survival. They are categories which you can pick from. And then we look at particular sections where input the verse is meant to be set, so that's the east. And that takes in much of the north as well. Getting life in the east. And it does the same for the south. So in case you've got an overview of the geography, and in the case of the south, all the discussion of Appalachia, and then we've got life in the south. And Appalachia has been come under the spotlight recently with a couple of role-playing games, Holler for Savage Worlds, and then of course Old Gods of Appalachia, take into account Native American history during the period, and then we move to the west. Again, another map. Look at the geography, and here we have discussion of something also of another element, which is the Republic of Texas, which declared itself free of Mexico by 1820 or so on. I know I've got that date wrong, and was essentially a separate republic for about 2 decades. To join the Union in about 1846, I think. You have to apologise if I get my history wrong. Again, I'm not I'm only a mere, I've got a mere history, a mere interest in history, and so on. So here we have the menagerie of horror, some of the perversities that might be encountered. So you've got ready-to-play monsters provided as well. Here we've got Helena Broadway King, presented again for use by the Game Master. And we've got Simon Adams, Spawn of Guilt. So you've got different types of monsters near the shroud. These are past the shroud. Lacuna of truths. So we've got basically a hole of truths, an absence of truths. Monsters return from beyond the shroud. Those that come back, such as Jericho Mobley. And then we've got ready to play chapters as well. So there's plenty of content which the Game Master can take and build to create her own content, but also plenty with which she can start. So, for example, here in each one we have this is the Black Curtain, and we've got a list of the Dramatis Pope Personae. The web, the kick-off events, how to manage the monster, and so basically that sets it all up. We'll move on to the next one, and so on, and so on. So you've got 3 or 4 of these, which we'll move on to the appendices, where we have a bibliography of everything from Edgar Allan Poe, which is a major influence in this, of course, topic history, social history, biography, political history, so on, and websites, maps, and a ludography. Great, I always love a good ludography, which is essentially the games that inspired Into the Perverse. And then we have reference content at the back. So, and then we finally have the colophon. Essentially, here's how the book was made. There we go. So that's Into the Perverse, a gothic horror game set during the early years of the 19th century in America, which essentially explores fear, propriety, and perversity during a very tightly constrained period. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Basically, if you enjoyed this, I meant to say, please click on the like button down below. And of course, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game which I will unbox, chat about to the best extent of my knowledge. Of course, all accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. I will be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.